The early morning fog curled through the red brick drive of the Okonkwo estate like a secret waiting to be revealed. 3 black crows perched on the wrought iron gate, staring into the compound with an eerie stillness. A siren wailed faintly in the distance, too far to matter, too close to ignore. Inside the grand house, painted cream and accented with gold trimmings, 2 siblings stood over the motionless body of their father. Chief Nathaniel Okonkwo, former real estate mogul, philanthropist, and the patriarch feared and revered in equal measure, lay sprawled across his leather recliner, lips slightly parted, eyes glassy and wide open. The television buzzed faintly in the background, frozen on a paused episode of The Rich Also Cry. Tommy turned to her brother with trembling hands. Is he gone?" she whispered. Dapo, the older of the 2 by 5 years and a full-time stockbroker with a quiet temper, reached down and touched the old man's wrist. No pulse, no breath, just the cold truth. "He's dead," Dapo muttered, barely able to believe it himself. But there was no grief in his eyes, only calculation. "We didn't kill him," Tommy said, but she didn't sound sure. Tommy, 28, ambitious, always draped in trendy Ankara blouses over ripped jeans, paced the living room, barefoot and visibly sweating. Her gold nose ring shimmered under the chandelier's light. A framed portrait of their father in his agbada loomed above the mantel like a silent judge. "It was just the sleeping pills, Dapo," she whispered, biting her thumb. "You said it would slow him down, not this." Dapo's brows twitched. "Don't panic," he snapped. "We gave him 2 pills, not poison. The doctor already said his heart was weak. We didn't kill him. Fate did. But if Mama finds out—" "Mama is gone," Dapo growled. "And now so is he. Focus." His eyes drifted toward the locked office upstairs, the one place their father never let anyone enter. Inside were the documents that could make them billionaires. Lands in Gwarinpa, hotels in Maitama, offshore accounts. It was all in the will, and the will was in the safe. All they had to do now was make it official. Outside, a shadow moved and watched. The compound's gateman, Bashir, a quiet 50-year-old with weathered skin and sharp instincts, stood just out of sight. He had seen the 2 siblings usher the old man into his chair late last night, murmuring, mixing something into his evening tea. He had heard the argument earlier that week, Tommy's voice cracking as she yelled, "So you'd rather give it all to orphans than your own blood?" Bashir's eyes narrowed. He picked up his battered Infinix phone and dialed the 1 number Chief always told him to call, if anything ever seemed off. It rang once, twice, then the line connected. A deep voice answered, calm but cold. "Is it time?" Bashir nodded. "Yes, sir. They believe you're dead." The voice on the line exhaled. "Good. Let them." Who was the man on the phone? Is Chief Nathaniel truly dead, or playing the most dangerous game of his life? What secrets lie within the locked office? And how far will the children go once the truth begins to unravel? The heavy scent of jasmine from the backyard garden wafted through the open window, but inside the Okonkwo house, the air was thick with greed and guilt. Dapo's knuckles were white as he twisted the brass doorknob to their father's private office, a room forbidden for as long as they could remember. Tommy stood behind him, arms crossed, her expression a blend of anxiety and hunger. She had changed into a clean blouse and covered her natural curls with a silk scarf, like someone preparing for a funeral that wasn't really a funeral. Click. The door opened. Inside, the room was pristine but suffocating, the curtains drawn, the air cool from the ever-humming split-unit AC. Bookshelves lined the walls, old law journals, land-use decrees, and hardcover Bibles. But the real prize sat at the center of the room, a digital safe embedded into the wall behind a portrait of a younger Chief Nathaniel, smiling beside their late mother. Dapo walked to it and entered the code he'd memorized years ago when he once peeked over their father's shoulder. 1965, their father's birth year. Beep, 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 clunk. The safe opened. Inside, stacks of property deeds, bond certificates, a passport, and a sealed brown envelope labeled, "Will do not open until confirmed dead." "This is it," Depo whispered. "Our freedom." Tommy opened the envelope with trembling fingers. She pulled out the document, thick, handwritten, notarized. At the bottom was the signature of Chief Nathaniel Okonkwo and 2 independent witnesses. She read aloud, "In the event of my death, my wealth shall be divided as follows. 40% to the Okonkwo Foundation for Education, 25% to the orphanage at Karu, 15% to my loyal staff, including my driver Bashir, 10% to my church, 10% to my children, if they are found to be of honest and upright character at the time of my passing." Tommy stopped cold. "If," she said. "What does that even mean? He left us crumbs. He gave Bashir more than us." Depo's voice turned sharp. No, he left us nothing. Unless," he flipped the page. "There was a final clause. In the event of suspicious circumstances around my death, an investigator has already been retained. My lawyer, Mr. Agata, shall release all inheritance only after a full inquiry." They stared at each other, horror washing over their faces. Someone was going to dig. Someone was already watching. Just then, the door behind them clicked shut. They spun around and found Bashir standing there, silent, his brown uniform dusty and his eyes cold. "I didn't know what you two were planning," he said slowly, "but the chief did. That's why he left me with instructions and a camera system." Tommy's throat went dry. "What camera?" Bashir pointed to the corner. There, hidden in plain sight, a small blinking red light. "You think you've inherited something," Bashir said calmly, "but all you've inherited is trouble. What footage does Bashir have, and who has he shared it with? What is the true condition of Chief Nathaniel? How far will Tommy and Depo go to cover their tracks?" A white canopy spread across the compound like a royal tent, draped with ribbons of gold and purple, the colors of dignity and royalty in Igbo tradition. A crowd had gathered. Some came to mourn, others came to be seen. In Abuja, wakes weren't just moments of grief, they were performances of legacy. Women in lace gellies fanned themselves in groups, murmuring about Chief's sudden death. Men in agbatas sipped small bottles of malt, shaking their heads solemnly as though each had known him intimately. The sound of talking drums echoed faintly from a speaker near the gate. Tommy wore a simple black wrapper and a designer mourning veil, her face twisted in a perfect mask of grief. Depo stood beside her in an embroidered white senator suit, dark glasses hiding his bloodshot eyes. Not from crying, from sleepless fear. They had played their parts well, greeting guests, offering trays of jollof rice and grilled catfish. The eulogy was set. The casket, sealed and closed, rested under a floral arch. But inside both siblings burned with a single thought. What if someone knew? He arrived just after the prayers ended. A tall man in a long white kaftan stepped into the compound, his face hidden behind dark shades and a full beard streaked with gray. He carried a cane, not for walking but to draw attention. He moved like someone familiar with the place, nodding at staff, glancing around with silent judgment. The mourners stared but said nothing. Then he took a seat, in the front row. Tommy's eyes locked on him. "Who's that?" she whispered to Depo. Depo squinted. "I don't know. But why does he look like?" Before he could finish, Bashir walked to the microphone. He cleared his throat and tapped the mic. "I know this is not tradition," Bashir said, voice slow and deliberate. "But before we bury our chief, he left a message he wanted me to share. He recorded it, just 2 weeks ago." Gasps rippled through the crowd. A projector lit up the white canopy wall. A video began to play. "If you're watching this, I might already be dead," Chief's voice said. In the video, Chief Nathaniel sat in his office, the same one Tommy and Depo had broken into. He wore a simple cream agbada, his beard neatly trimmed, eyes piercing through the screen. I know my children may not understand why I chose to share my wealth beyond bloodline. But if I die under strange circumstances, if my passing is too sudden, too convenient, know this, my death may not have been natural. Tommy gripped Dapo's arm, nails digging into his skin. The crowd murmured, confused. Chief continued, I have given authority to my lawyer, Mr. Agata, to investigate. I have installed hidden cameras. And if my children were involved in my demise in any way, let the law deal with them accordingly. The screen went black. The compound went silent. Then the man in the caftan stood, and took off his shades, and peeled off the fake beard. Chief Nathaniel Okonkwo. Alive. Standing. Breathing. Watching. Why did Chief fake his death? And how long has he been planning this test? What will the community do now that the dead man has returned? Will Tommy and Dapo confess, or escalate into something darker? The once sacred study, thick with the smell of cedar wood and the silence of consequence, now held only 3 people. Chief Nathaniel Okonkwo sat behind his polished mahogany desk, his fingers laced, his expression unreadable. On the opposite side stood Dapo and Tommy, their backs straight but hearts racing. The door had been locked. No witnesses. No pretenses. Tommy was the first to speak. Daddy, we thought. That I was dead? Chief interrupted calmly. I know. I watched you sprinkle the sedative into my tea. Bashir helped me switch the cups. Dapo's jaw tightened. So this was a setup? No, Chief replied. This was a test. One I hoped you'd never fail. He stood and walked around the desk slowly, like a judge descending the bench. Everything I've built, every plot of land, every school, every contract, was meant to build a legacy, not fund your greed. I gave you an opportunity. Education. Networks. And this is how you repay me. We just wanted what's ours. Dapo snapped. Chief stopped in front of him. Yours? You think you're entitled to this empire? Entitlement is the first step to destruction. Tommy dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face now. Real ones, not the rehearsed sobs from the fake funeral. We were scared you'd give it all away. You've changed, Daddy. After Mama died, we felt like we lost both parents. Chief's eyes flickered briefly. Then he turned toward a locked drawer in the bookshelf and pulled out 2 files. One of these is a police report. I had the power to press attempted murder charges. Believe me, I still do. The other is a deal. A choice. You won't get both. Dapo's eyes lit up. A deal? What kind of deal? Chief laid the 2 folders on the table. One file sends you to prison. The other? I cut you off. No wealth. No inheritance. But freedom. You leave Abuja. You start from scratch. You earn the life you thought you deserved. Tommy blinked, stunned. You want us to walk away? With nothing? Chief nodded slowly. Yes. Nothing but your name and your shame. That's all you have left. But Dapo didn't blink. He glanced at the prison file, then at his sister. No, he said firm. I'm not walking away from this empire. I've worked under your shadow too long. Chief narrowed his eyes. Then you choose war? Dapo stepped closer. I'll give you what you really want, silence. But for a price. I want a piece of the company. Just 10%. Quietly. Off record. Tommy gasped. Dapo. Chief stared at him, stunned. You're bargaining with your father's life? No, Dapo whispered coldly. I'm bargaining with your secret. You faked your death. You staged an inheritance scheme. Imagine what the press will do with that. Or your investors. Chief clenched his jaw, the fire in his chest growing. Outside, a thunderstorm began to brew. Inside, so did something darker. Will Chief Nathaniel call Dapo's bluff? Or surrender a piece of his empire? Has Tommy truly repented? Or is she just quieter in her betrayal? What other secrets lie beneath the Okonkwo legacy? Rain tapped gently against the glass panels of the chief's private penthouse suite overlooking the Abuja skyline. In the living room, Chief Nathaniel sat alone, sipping warm kunu from a clay mug. He hadn't slept. Below, the city buzzed awake, vendors wheeling carts, taxis honking, children in school uniforms marching through puddles. But inside this tower of wealth, a legacy was rotting from within. On the mahogany coffee table in front of him sat two items. A signed agreement granting Depo 10% of Okonkwo Properties Ltd. Under the table. A flash drive labeled security footage, office night. Chief stared at both like poison. Behind him, Bashir entered, holding a newspaper with a trembling hand. "Sir, you need to see this." Chief took it slowly. Front page, bold headline. Okonkwo children plotted father's death. Source reveals family secrets. His hands went cold. Someone's leaking from inside. The article revealed too much. Not just that Chief was alive, but that he had tested his children. That he had faked his death. That he offered a private deal to avoid police involvement. And worst of all, that the children may have drugged him. Chief's grip tightened around the paper. "Only 4 people knew," he muttered. "Me. Depo. Tommy. Bashir." He turned to Bashir, who raised both hands. "I swear, sir. I didn't tell anyone. Wallahi. I would never." Chief believed him. Bashir had been loyal for 2 decades. But that meant only one thing. One of his children had gone to the press. A phone buzzed. His lawyer, Mr. Agata. "Sir," the voice said urgently. "Investors are calling. Clients are panicking. You need to address this today, or everything you've built will collapse." Chief closed his eyes, breath shaking. His children hadn't just tried to kill him. They were killing his legacy. Meanwhile, at a hidden cafe in Was 2, Tommy sat opposite a journalist. Her hoodie was pulled low, face bare, expression worn. She stirred a cup of tea she hadn't sipped. "I didn't mean for things to go this far," she murmured. "I just wanted to get ahead of Depo. He was trying to cut me out." Again. The journalist leaned in. "So you're confirming everything? The fake death? The sedative? The deal?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. But I also want to make something clear. I never wanted to hurt our father. It was Depo who took it too far. He made the offer. He threatened blackmail. He forced the deal." The journalist raised a brow. "And why are you telling me this now?" Tommy looked up, eyes rimmed with red. "Because I think Depo's going to do something worse. And if anything happens to our father, this time, the whole world should know who's really responsible. Can Chief Nathaniel regain public trust? Or will he be remembered as a man whose children destroyed him? Is Tommy finally trying to make things right, or playing her own long game? And what exactly is Depo planning next?" The cameras flashed like lightning as Chief Nathaniel Okonkwo stepped onto the marble platform. His agbada was a bold navy blue, embroidered in silver, his face solemn but composed. The nation had come to see a man many thought dead, and now whispered was disgraced. Dozens of journalists, vloggers, and estate investors packed the room. A massive screen behind him displayed the Okonkwo Properties logo, once a symbol of excellence, now shadowed by scandal. Chief stepped up to the microphone. "I, Nathaniel Okonkwo, am not dead," he began. "But perhaps my judgment was." The room fell silent. "I staged a private test to see if my children were ready to carry my legacy. They were not. What I intended as a lesson has turned into a storm, one I take responsibility for. But let me be clear, I did not die. And I did not break the law." He paused. "But someone did." Suddenly, Depo stormed in. Dressed in a charcoal gray suit, his eyes cold and jaw clenched, Depo walked straight to the front. Security moved to block him, but Chief raised a hand. "Let him speak." Depo took the second mic. "You all want truth," he said, scanning the crowd. "Then hear it. My father manipulated the press, his staff, and even his lawyer. He faked his death to trap us, his children. To shame us. To test our loyalty like we were his servants. Gasps filled the room. He said it was about legacy. But let me tell you something. While we were growing up, we weren't heirs. We were strangers. He gave more to outsiders than his own family. He taught us power, but not love. Tommy, who had quietly entered the back of the room, covered her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes, not just at Dapo's words, but at the way the crowd was beginning to nod. Dapo raised a final blow. And if I go down for blackmail, I'm not going alone. The press exploded into chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Is this true, Chief? Were you emotionally abusive? Did you bribe your children with silence? Chief Nathaniel stood frozen. The test he designed had backfired. He wanted to teach them humility. But now the nation saw him as the manipulator. The tyrant. The father who staged a funeral to expose his own blood. His lawyer pulled him aside. Sir, we need to cut this. It's spiraling. But before he could leave, Tommy stepped forward. No. I need to say something. All eyes turned to her. She approached the microphones, removed her scarf, and faced both her brother and her father. We all failed each other, she began. But no matter how broken a family is, it deserves truth. And today, I'm ready to tell mine. What is Tommy's truth? Will it heal the family, or bury it for good? Will Dapo escalate further now that he's publicly declared war? Has Chief truly lost control of the legacy? Or is one final move still coming? Transcorp Hilton Press Hall, 11:22 a.m. The cameras refocused. The flashlights flared again. This time, they weren't on the father or the son, but the daughter, standing alone. Tommy Okonkwo clutched the microphone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her black blouse, now creased with sweat and tension, clung to her frame. Her natural curls were no longer hidden. Neither were her tears. I was 15, she began. Her voice cracked. The crowd leaned in. I came home from school with a letter of expulsion. I had fought a teacher. She insulted me and I lashed out. When I got home, Papa didn't ask why. He just beat me. In front of the house help. In front of Dapo. He said I was disgraceful. A few gasps echoed through the room. Chief shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Dapo looked down. That day, I stopped trying to please him. I became what he expected, distant. Defiant. Cold. But I was never cruel. Not until I saw that even in death, my father was going to give everything to the world and leave us behind. I didn't want his money. I wanted his love. Tommy wiped her face with trembling fingers. When Mama died, it was like the roof caved in. No softness. No balance. Just rules. We became symbols of success, not his children. You, Papa, she pointed toward Chief. You never taught us how to feel. Only how to win. And Dapo, you turned into him. Dapo flinched. Tommy, that's not fair. No. You bullied me into silence. You told me to follow your lead. You drugged his tea. I only watched. I should have stopped you. I didn't. She turned back to the crowd. I'm not proud of what I did. But I want to make this right. Not for inheritance. Not for legacy. For healing. If that means I go to prison, I'll go. But I won't live with this lie anymore. The entire hall went silent. Chief stood. His eyes wet. For the first time, he looked like a father. He approached the stage slowly, ignoring the flashing cameras, the reporters shouting his name. Tommy, he said softly, voice trembling. I failed you. I failed all of you. She looked up, surprised. Chief turned to the audience. This was never meant to become public. But maybe it had to. Maybe the truth had to come out, for me, for my family, for others like us. He placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. Today, I'm suspending all inheritance proceedings. Not until we rebuild what matters. Not business. Not image. But family. Tommy broke down. Not from shame, but release. And then, for the first time in a decade, father and daughter hugged. But in the back of the hall, Depo was already walking out. He didn't clap. He didn't cry. He didn't wait. He simply slipped his phone into his pocket, eyes cold. And as the cameras turned away from him, he whispered, "He thinks this is the end. But it's only the beginning. Tommy has confessed, but will the justice system still act? Can Chief Nathaniel truly redeem a legacy that's been burned by betrayal? What plan is Depo setting in motion, now that he's walking away?" Rain streaked the tall windows in soft diagonal lines. Depo Okonkwo stood by the balcony, staring down at the blur of headlights snaking through the wet streets below. Behind him, a tall man in a dark blue blazer poured 2 glasses of whiskey. "You're sure you want to do this?" the man asked, handing him one. Depo took the glass but didn't drink. "I was humiliated today," he said. "My own father, my sister, the entire country watching like it was Big Brother. They want me to disappear. I will, but not quietly." The man raised an eyebrow. "Then what's the plan?" Depo turned from the glass and reached for his tablet. A single document glowed on the screen. Okonkwo Holdings, International Assets Transfer. "This is the part of the empire no one sees," Depo said. "Foreign lands, offshore subsidiaries, dormant companies. All registered under shell corporations I helped Papa manage when he was too busy playing savior." He looked at the lawyer. "I want it all moved, hidden, and then sold." Quietly, the lawyer blinked. "That would dismantle 1/3 of the entire company. You'd destroy his legacy." Depo's smile was cold. "No, I'll take it back. A dangerous alliance forms." The lawyer, Femi Tambo, was no stranger to men with blood on their ambition. He had handled political exiles, scandal-ridden billionaires, and royalty on the run. But Depo's proposal was ruthless even by Abuja standards. "What about your sister?" Femi asked. "She might still inherit. She has the public on her side." Depo laughed bitterly. "Tommy plays the victim, but she's no saint. And even if she inherits the ruins, I'll own what matters. Liquidity. Power. The pieces she won't see coming." He slid another document across the table. "I want you to activate all dormant accounts tied to Blue Palm Holdings. Start the sell-off. Begin with the Dubai properties." Femi frowned. "You do realize if this ever becomes public." "It won't," Depo said, standing. "Because while they're busy with healing and forgiveness, I'm busy with strategy." Back at the Okonkwo mansion, Tommy couldn't sleep. She stared out the window of her childhood room, wrapped in a faded Ankara shawl. The house felt colder now, quieter. Her father had gone to bed early. No more lawyers. No more cameras. Just the heavy silence of a family torn apart. Her phone vibrated. It was a message. "No sender. He's not done. Watch the Dubai accounts. A friend." Her heart skipped. She called Bashir instantly. "Please check the study. Look for anything with the name Blue Palm Holdings." Now, she had just begun to think the storm was over. But Depo was already rebuilding the fire. What is Blue Palm Holdings? And how deeply does it connect to the Okonkwo fortune? Who sent the anonymous message to Tommy? And can they be trusted? Will Depo succeed in tearing down the family legacy from the inside out? Tommy sat on the floor, files spread across her late mother's old wooden trunk. Bashir had just returned from the study with a black folder marked in fading ink. BP Holdings, Private. Her fingers trembled as she flipped through the pages. There it was again. Blue Palm Holdings. A name that never came up in board meetings, trust discussions, or will clauses. Her heart pounded as she skimmed the contents. Asset sheets. Offshore accounts in Dubai. Ownership of 3 hotels, 2 warehouses, and a luxury marina. All linked to her father's signature. But something was odd. One name kept appearing beside his. Mrs. Adiz Uma. Who is Adiz Uma? Tommy rushed down to the private wine cellar. the only room her father had never fully cleared after Mama's death. Inside, old boxes from their family's Enugu estate were stacked against the far wall. She pulled them down one by one. And then she saw it, a framed photograph buried under torn envelopes. Her mother and another woman. Tall, beautiful, familiar eyes. They stood side by side in front of a boutique in Dubai. On the back, scrawled in faded ink, "Adiz, you always kept our secrets." Tommy froze. Her voice cracked in the silence. Was she Mama's friend? Or something else? She turned the photo over again. The boutique's name was just visible in the corner. Adiz Vale, Jumeirah Beach. A phone rang inside a quiet apartment above the boutique. The woman who picked it up was in her 50s, elegant, with streaks of silver in her braided hair and eyes that held a history too complicated to name. "Yes," she said, voice cool. The caller paused. "It's about Chief Nathaniel. His daughter is digging." Adiz sighed deeply. She walked to the window, staring out into the moonlit waves. "I knew this day would come," she murmured. "She doesn't know the full truth." "Not yet." The caller replied. "Should we shut it down?" Adiz turned, her silhouette calm but firm. "No. Let her come. But be ready. Because if she finds out what her mother and I buried 20 years ago," she placed a gold ring on her finger, "it'll destroy everything." Who exactly is Adiz and what was her secret connection to Tommy's mother? Was Blue Palm Holdings a shared secret or part of a betrayal? And is someone else still profiting from the empire behind the scenes? The plane landed hours ago, but Tommy still couldn't calm the storm in her chest. Her rented black abaya fluttered as she stepped out of the cab and stared up at the boutique tucked between two glistening perfume shops. Adiz Vale. Stylish. Discreet. Too quiet for a shop that sat just steps from the most luxurious marina in the Gulf. Inside, gold light bathed the racks of hand-sewn veils, each one different, like masks worn by women with stories they'd never speak. The walls were soft pink, the scent of oud and rose petals thick in the air. And then, Adiz appeared, tall, poised, with deep brown skin that shimmered under the soft lights. Her silver braids fell behind a black silk tunic. She looked at Tommy like she already knew her. "You came," she said simply. Tommy blinked, her voice faltering. "You knew I would?" Adiz nodded. "Your mother always said you were the brave one." The truth unfolds over tea. They sat on plush cushions in the boutique's back lounge. Adiz poured mint tea in silence. "I know who you are," Tommy said finally. "You're in the files. You're linked to Blue Palm Holdings. That company controls assets worth over 8 billion Nigerian nairas. Hidden from the will. Hidden from me." "Why?" Adiz sipped calmly, then placed her cup down. "Because Blue Palm wasn't built for your father," she said. "It was built for your mother and me." Tommy's face contorted. "What do you mean?" Adiz looked her in the eyes. "Your mother and I, we were in love, Tommy. Before she ever married your father. Before the world told her she had to choose between inheritance and identity. Blue Palm was our escape plan. A life beyond secrets." Tommy gasped. "But she married my father." "She did. To protect her name. To preserve her family's honor. But she kept me close. We stayed in touch. And when your father discovered our past, he took everything. Re-registered Blue Palm under his name. Cut me out. He claimed it as his own." Tommy stared at her tea, stunned. "So all these years you were just watching?" "No. I've been waiting. For someone with the heart to reclaim what was stolen. And now you're here." Back in Abuja, Depo gets the call. Depo sat in the back of a tinted SUV, scrolling through property transfer documents when his burner phone rang. "Yes." A voice replied, female. Controlled. "She knows about Dubai. She knows about Blue Palm. She's with Adiz now." Depo cursed under his breath. "Then you know what to do," he growled. "Make sure she never comes back with anything useful." He ended the call and stared out the window. "Let the family heal," he muttered sarcastically, "while I burn down everything behind them. Will Tommy trust Adiz? And can the truth about her mother survive the war ahead? What dangerous step is Depo about to take to protect his secret scheme? What does the future hold for the Okonkwo legacy?" Chaos erupted beneath the ancient Irako tree. Bashir shielded Chief Nathaniel's trembling form as guests screamed and scrambled for cover. Tommy's eyes widened in terror, her hands trembling as she dropped the final will onto the dusty ground. The masked attacker darted forward, but before another shot could be fired, Depo lunged, his face a mask of fury and fear. In the struggle, the assailant's mask slipped, revealing a familiar, chilling face, their Uncle Chike. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Chike, once a trusted family advisor, snarled, "You think this inheritance is about love? It's about power. Your father left me out of everything, and I'm here to claim what's rightfully mine." Chief Nathaniel, shaken but resolute, pointed a trembling finger. "Chike, you betrayed us all. Your greed nearly destroyed this family." Tommy stepped forward, voice firm. "This ends now. We don't need more violence. We need truth." As police sirens wailed in the distance, Chike dropped his weapon, defeated. The family, battered but unbroken, gathered together beneath the Irako tree, a fractured but hopeful circle. Chief Nathaniel finally spoke, voice heavy with regret. "We started this journey as strangers bound by blood, but today we have a chance to rebuild together." Tommy glanced at Depo, who nodded reluctantly. The legacy of the Okonkwo family was far from perfect, but it was theirs to heal. Can the Okonkwos truly forgive and rebuild? What becomes of Depo's ambition and Tommy's quest for justice? And what hidden truths remain buried in the past? The first golden rays of sunlight spilled over the sprawling grounds, casting long shadows across the freshly disturbed earth. The air smelled of damp earth and hope. The Okonkwo family sat quietly on the veranda of the old family home, bruised, humbled, but slowly awakening to something more than rivalry. Chief Nathaniel, his usual stern demeanor softened by weariness, poured tea into delicate porcelain cups. Tommy accepted hers with trembling hands, while Depo stood slightly apart, the weight of the past heavy on his shoulders. Chief Nathaniel broke the silence. "We were blinded by greed, ambition, and fear. But inheritance is more than wealth. It is the lessons we leave behind, the love we nurture, and the future we dare to build." Tommy looked at her father, eyes clear now with forgiveness. "We can be better. For Mama's sake. For ourselves." Depo nodded, swallowing his pride. "It won't be easy, but maybe we can start by trusting each other." Outside, the city of Abuja awoke. Its bustling streets, the hum of markets, the pulse of life mirroring the new beginning inside the Okonkwo estate. The scars of betrayal still lingered, but in their place, fragile threads of reconciliation began to weave a stronger, wiser family. The Okonkwo family compound had changed. Where once tension thickened the air, now laughter and the soft rhythm of drums filled the courtyard. The sun shone brightly over the garden, where newly planted trees stretched toward the clear Abuja sky, symbols of growth and renewal. Chief Nathaniel sat beside Tommy and Depo under the shade of the Irako tree, their hands resting close but no longer tense. The wounds were not forgotten, but healing was in progress. Chief Nathaniel spoke with quiet strength. "Wealth can be lost overnight, but the love and lessons we pass on, that is legacy. Your mother's vision was never about money. It was about unity, courage, and truth." Tommy smiled gently. "We are more than heirs. We're guardians. Of each other." Depo nodded, voice sincere. "And this time we build together. No secrets. No betrayals." The sun dipped low, casting golden light across the family gathered beneath the Irako's sprawling branches. Their journey had been long, marked by darkness and betrayal, but from it emerged something far stronger. A legacy eternal, born not from inheritance alone, but from forgiveness and hope. What happens when the past fights back? Tommy's heart thundered in her chest as she pulled into the driveway under a veil of darkness. The house, usually imposing in daylight, now looked fragile, like a secret too heavy to hold. She fumbled with her keys, eyes darting toward the shadowed windows. Inside, the silence was shattered by a faint crackling. Smoke curled from the study, the door ajar, the scent of burning paper thick in the air. Her legs gave out. No! Rushing inside, she saw ashes swirling where family files had been moments before. The Blue Palm Holdings folder gone. A voice whispered behind her. Tommy! She spun around to find Bashir, grim-faced, holding a scorched envelope. They came while you were gone, he said. Tried to erase everything. Tommy clutched the half-burnt letter. It was from Mr. Agata, the family lawyer. If you find this, the final will is hidden at Guarimpa Estate. The key is with Mama's locket. Her fingers trembled as she touched the locket around her neck, a delicate gold chain with a small emerald pendant. Outside, Dapo watched from the shadows. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. The fire was a warning. She's getting closer. Dapo smiled darkly. Good, he whispered. Let her come. Who set the fire? And will Tommy find the hidden will before it's too late? What is the secret will say? And how will it change the inheritance battle? Is Dapo preparing for a final strike, or his own downfall? The sun beat down harshly on the sprawling estate, its freshly cut grass shimmering under the blazing Abuja heat. The Okonkwo family had gathered under the wide canopy of an ancient Irako tree, a place steeped in memories of laughter and pain. Chief Nathaniel, Tommy, Dapo, and Bashir stood tensely, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Tommy held the emerald locket tightly as she walked slowly to the old wooden chest beneath the tree. She unclasped it, and inside a brittle, folded parchment emerged. The final will of her mother, Mrs. Ifeoma Okonkwo. With trembling hands, Tommy unfolded the document and began to read aloud. To my beloved children and husband, if fate has brought you here, then know that love and legacy are not measured by wealth alone. I leave to you my share of the estate, held secretly in trust, to be shared only by those who honor family above fortune. The true inheritance is forgiveness, unity, and the future you build together. Dapo scoffed. Poetic nonsense. But then Tommy's voice faltered as she reached the last lines. And as for the 10% hidden in Blue Palm Holdings, that is reserved for the one who chooses truth over greed. Suddenly, Chief Nathaniel spoke. I've spent years chasing power, he said quietly. But your mother's words remind me what I almost lost, my family. Tommy glanced at Dapo, whose face betrayed no emotion. The wind rustled through the Irako leaves, as if echoing the past's final breath. But just then a gunshot echoed. Everyone froze. From the bushes stepped a masked figure, aiming at Chief Nathaniel. Before anyone could react, Bashir leapt forward, pushing the chief to safety. The bullet tore through the air, shattering the quiet. Who fired the shot, and why target Chief Nathaniel now? Will the family finally unite, or will this violence tear them apart forever?